draw on. So we're going to be using that instead of drawing on this cat image. But feel free to use this cat image if you'd like. So the first thing we're going to do is try to paint the image a certain color. And the way we do this is by saying blank and reference all the pixels and set this equal to 0,255,0. So by painting the entire image green. And we can display this image by saying green and pass in the blank image. Save that and run. Can I broadcast? Yeah. Okay, you need to give it a shape of 3. Basically, we are giving it a shape of height, width, and the number of color channels. So just keep that in mind. Save that. And this is the green image that we get. Cool. We could even change this and try to change this to red. 0,255. Save that. And we get a red image over here. Now, you can also color a certain portion of the image by basically giving it a range of pixels. So we can say 200 to 300, and then from 300 to 400. Save that and run. And you get a red square in this image. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a rectangle. And the way we do this is by using the cv.rectangle method. Now this method takes in an image to draw the rectangle over, which in this case is blank, and it takes in 0.1, 0.2, color, thickness, and a line type if you like. So the 0.1 will specifically be 0,0, which is the origin, and we can go all the way across to 250, 250. Let's give it a color of 0,255,0, which is green. Give it a thickness of, let's say, 2, which is basically the same the thickness of the borders. And once that's done, we can display this image by saying, let's call this rectangle, and pass in the blank image. We can comment this out since we don't need this anymore. And we get a green rectangle that goes all the way from the origin to 250, 250. We can play around with it if you like, so we could go from 250 to maybe 500. And it goes all the way across the image. So you basically divide the image in half. Now there is a way of filling in this image a certain color. And the way we do this is instead of saying thickness is equal to 2, we say thickness is equal to cv.filled. And that basically fills in the rectangle to get this green rectangle. Now alternatively, you can also specify this as -1. And we get the same result. What we could also do is instead of giving it fixed values like 250 and 500, what we could do is we could say img.shape of 0, of 1 divided by 2, and image.shape of 0 divided by 2. Let's save that and run. Image is not defined. God, this is blank and this is blank. Save that and run. And we get a nice little rectangle, or square if you will, in this image. What it basically did is it scaled the rectangle from, instead of being this entire square, this rectangle basically has dimensions half of that of the original image. So moving on, let's try and draw a circle. Draw a circle. This is also fairly straightforward. We do a cv.circle and we pass in the blank image and we give it a center, which are basically the coordinates of the center. For now, let's set this to the midpoint of this image by saying 250, 250. Alternatively, you could also get this. Let's give it a radius of 40 pixels. Give it a color of 0,0 0,255, which is red, BGR, and give it a thickness of, let's say, 3. We can display this image, say circle is equal to blank. And we get a nice little circle over here that has its center at 250,250 and a radius of 40 pixels. Again, you could also fill in this image by giving a thickness of -1. And we get a nice little dot here in the middle. Cool. Now there's something else that I forgot, and that is how to draw a line, a standalone line on the image. And that again is fairly straightforward. Say draw a line. We use a cv.line method, and this takes in the image to draw the line on and 2 points. Let's just copy these points, basically everything. And this basically draws a point from 0,0 to half of these image dimensions, so that's 250, 250, and then it draws a line of color 0,255,0. Let's set this to full white, so 255, 255, and 255, and basically the thickness you can specify as 3. And we didn't display this image. cv.I'm show, call this line, draw the line. Blank image. And we get a line that goes all across from 0,0 to 250,250. Let's try and play around with this, and let's draw a line from 100 to maybe 250, and then it goes all the way to 300 to 400. Save that, run.